Good morning, and welcome to our BCSF BWA hosted Eshinni and Kakushinni Memorial Service. My name is Lynn Ono, and I'm happy to be here today alongside my co-chair, Akemi Yoshimoto. Today, we remember and honor Eshinni, the wife of Shinran, and their daughter, Kakushinni. Eshinni and Kakushinni are perhaps two of the most important people in the history of the Honganji, our mother temple in Kyoto, Japan. These two women supported and to a large extent made it possible for Shinran to devote himself fully to the task of sharing Amida's great, compassionate aspiration with us. It is with deep gratitude that we honor them with this service.
皆様、おはようございます。COVID の影響で在宅が多くなり、大変な思いをなさっていらっしゃることと存じます。サンフランシスコ仏教会 BWA 主催のEshinni革新2項追悼法要にズームインをしていただきありがとうございます。今日の司会は英語は林大野で、日本語は私吉本明美です。今日親鸞上人のお浦様である恵親二公とそのご息女の革新二公を偲び法要を営ませていただきます。日本の京都にあります私たちの西本願寺にとりまして恵親二公と革新二公は大変重要な方であります。このお二方は親鸞上人を支え大いなる阿弥陀仏の教えを私たちに伝えるために努力をなさいました。私たちはこのお二方に深い感謝の意を表します。
We will begin our service with the group reading of the Jodo Shinshu Creed 1. Following this, Akemi Yoshimoto will lead us in the Ryogemon in Japanese.
では、ただいまより浄土真宗クリードをリンダ・オーノとご一緒に斉唱いたしましょう。日本語の方はRyogemonを斉唱してください。
Jodo Shinshu Creed 1, page 12 of the Purple Service Book. Entrusting the vow of the Buddha and reciting the sacred name, I shall proceed along the journey of life with strength and joy. Revering the light of the Buddha, reflecting upon my imperfect self, I shall strive to live a life of gratitude. Following the teachings of the Buddha, discerning the right path, I shall spread the true Dharma. Rejoicing in the compassion of Buddha, respecting and aiding one another, I shall do my best to work towards the welfare of society. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. We will now have Sutra chanting with Reverend Elaine Donlin. She will begin with Sambujo on page 24 and conclude with Juseige, which begins on page 93. Following the Sutra chanting, we will have several Dharma messages by BWA members, beginning with Reverend Elaine, then BWA President Diane, followed by Yumi Hata, and concluding with a meditative reading by Harumi Kishida. Thank you all.
では、ただいまよりイレイン・ドンリン氏の同志により三部上と重聖義を拝読いたします。重聖義の後、ご法話をイレイン・ドンリン氏と BWA 会長ダイアン・ダースト、そしてユミハッタ様にお願いいたします。
Ujo mida nyorai nyudo jo sange ra aku Bujo Shaka Nyorai Nyudo Jo Sange aku Bujo Jipo Nyorai Nyudo Jo Sange aku. Today, on the occasion of the Buddhist Church of San Francisco's annual Eshinni and Kakushinni Memorial Service, we reverently come before Amida. With deepest reverence and gratitude for the all-inclusive wisdom and compassion that is Amida Buddha, we reaffirm the three treasures. Namo Kie Butsu. We take refuge in the Buddha, the timeless life of wisdom and compassion, which is the source of awakening. Namo Kie Ho. We take refuge in the Dharma, the universal truth of impermanence and interdependence, the illuminating light that is the Buddha's wisdom. Namo Kie So. We take refuge in the Sangha, the community of people dedicated to living harmoniously in the universal truth that is life and manifesting Buddha's compassion. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Namandots. 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 Gagon Chosegan Hishimu Jodo Shigan Fumanzok Seifujo Shogak Ga Omuryoko Ui dai se shu, usai sho bingu, se fujo shogak, gashi jo bundo, myosho chojipo, kukyo mi shomon, Seifujo Shogak Ryokujin Shonen Joe Shubongyo Shigumu Jodo Isho Teninshi Jinriki Endaiko Ushomu Saido Shoujo Sankumyo Kosai Shuyakunan Kaihi Chi Egen Meshi Konmoan Eisoku Sho Akudo Sudan Zen Shumon Koso Jo Manzok Iorojipo Nichigaten Shujuki Tenko Ompugen Ishu Kai Hozo Kose Kudoku Ho Jo Daishu Chu Seppo Shishiku Kuyo Isai Boots Gusoku Shu Toku Hon Gane Shiten Joman Tokui Sangayo Nyobuten Mugechi Sudaten Mifusho Ganga Kuerik Toshi Saisho Son Shiganyako Ka Daisen no Kando Goku Shotenin To Ujin Myo Ke Namandabu 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 Gani Shikudoku Byodo Seisai Dohon Bodaishin Ojo May this merit virtue be shared equally with all beings. May we together awaken the Bodhi mind and be born in the realm of peace and joy. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namandots, Namandots, Namandots. Good morning. As my term as president of the Federation of Buddhist Women's Associations come to a close at the end of this December, I've had the honor of witnessing how our BWA organizations serve to bring us all together in the Nembutsu. In the 1978 convention in Sao Paulo, Brazil, The World Buddhist Women's Associations, comprised of BWA organizations in Japan, BCA, Hawaii, Canada, and South America, passed a resolution to conduct annual services in memory of Eshinni-sama. Then in 2002, the World BWA passed a resolution to similarly honor Kakushinni. And so the remarkable contributions to our tradition from these two women were now formally acknowledged and celebrated. Here at BCSF, our BWA hosted service honors both of these remarkable women at the same service. So we'll hear from several of our BWA members sharing their thoughts on this important day. But first, I'd like to share a little history of Eshinni and Kakushinni. Eshinni, Shinran's wife, and Kakushinni, their youngest daughter, never taught or wrote extensively on the Nembutsu, unlike Shinran. Yet their contributions to what we now call Jodo Shinshu is invaluable. They themselves were crucial to the transmission of Jodo Shinshu, and because of their life work and commitment to the Nembutsu teachings, we are still able to receive and appreciate these profound teachings today. Eshinni was Shinran's wife and Kakushinni's mother. She was an extremely independent woman who lived to 87 years of age, and she didn't depend on her husband. In fact, she supported Shinran financially, materially. She was educated, intelligent, and refined. She owned an estate and raised her 6 children almost by herself. She made her own decisions. She and Shinran challenged traditional society with their marriage because she married a monk who was now, quote, neither monk nor lay, unquote. And as such, Eshinni was a selfless supporter of the Nembutsu teaching, as Shinran taught it. The illuminating letters of Eshinni, which were discovered in the archives of the Honganji in 1921, demonstrated that her attitude toward her husband was not at all submissive or passive. She was motivated by her own experiences, which had convinced her that Shinran's work was of great significance. And so today we revere Eshinni, not because she was simply the wife of Shinran, but because her contribution to and support of his work arose from her own conviction and faith. Kakushinni was the youngest daughter of Shinran and Eshinni. She was his caretaker in his later years and was at his bedside when he died at the age of 90. She was 30 years old. Kakushinni is the one who established the foundation of the Honganji to transmit the Nembutsu teachings. After Shinran's death, she built a small mausoleum to enshrine her father's ashes and portrait. In 1277, she donated this gravesite to all Shinshu followers as a common memorial to Shinran. People gathered, followers came, and the Nembutsu teaching spread. Approximately 50 years later, the gravesite became an official temple and gradually developed into Honganji, Temple of the Primal Vow, as we know it today. Kakushinni also established a system of caretakers composed of her descendants to care for the mausoleum. She kept Shinran's Nembutsu teaching alive and perpetuated them for us some 750 years later. It was through her vision and deep appreciation of the Nembutsu that Kakushinni established the foundation of what was to become our mother temple in Kyoto, Japan. Eshinni and Kakushinni were two women who showed us through their words and deeds that they entrusted themselves to boundless wisdom and compassion without doubt. I am so grateful that our tradition holds this annual service, thanks to the BWA Eshinni Kakushinni World Resolutions, so that we don't take them for granted or their contributions for granted. It is because of their humble yet tremendous devotion and service to the Nembutsu teachings that we are. Please join me in Gassho to hear the liberating words of Shinran. Awaken to the life-nurturing primal vow of Amida, those who only entrust in this universal activity of love and compassion through the benefit of being embraced and never forsaken, all attain enlightenment. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namandots, 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 Namandots.
Dabatsu, Namo Dabatsu, Namo Dabatsu. Hajimemashite. Yoroshiku onegashimasu. It is an honor to serve as the president of the oldest Buddhist Women's Association in the United States. BCSF BWA was organized in April 1900, known then as the Fujin Kai. Fujin means women in Japanese, Kai means association. The Obutsudan behind me was brought to the United States by my Obachan. It is a Jodo Shinshu Obutsudan, as the images flanking the Buddha are Shinran and his sensei Honen. This is the Obutsudan I grew up with. I know Obachan brought it from Japan because Oji-chan was a Zen Buddhist. Obachan was friendly, rather gregarious, with a wide circle of friends, and known to be a happy person. She enjoyed making manju and knitting. Once I got my driver's license, she would ask me to take her to her friends' homes to drop off manju and visit. Oji-chan was reputed to be very silent, a vegetarian who was very disciplined in his approach to living a hard Zen Buddhist life. While I look like my Oji-chan, I'm glad that my Obachan was a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist. I went to Sunday school at Mountain View Buddhist Temple from age 6 to about 12. I learned how to Oshoko, about the Eightfold Path, about impermanence, the meaning of compassion and gratitude in Buddhism. I learned that there are different types of Buddhism, of which Jodo Shinshu was what my family practiced. The ministers were all men, and the Sunday school teachers were generally women and sometimes men. In all those years, the name Eshinni and Kakushinni never came up. It was not until I became a BCSF member and a member of the Buddhist Women's Association that the importance of Eshinni and Kakushinni became real to me. Eshinni as Shinran's wife and daughter Kakushinni created a home for Shinran's Jodo Shinshu teaching, Nishihon Ganji in Kyoto. That teaching for me is about being able to live the Dharma as part of life's daily routines, with awareness of the Eightfold Path, to actively walk that path, even when I'm sweeping the floor or doing laundry. Jodo Shinshu is a form of Buddhism that can be lived by all persons. When I look at this Obutsudan, I think about my Obachan. She came to California in the 1910s as a picture bride, the result of an arranged marriage by the Hiroshima Kenjin Kai. The man that greeted her at the ship when she arrived in San Francisco was to be the love of her life, who died shortly after the birth of their daughter. That man was not my Oji-chan. Obachan could have returned to Japan, but she decided that California was home. She had started a strawberry farm and was able to care for her daughter. However, the Hiroshima Kenjinkai deemed that if she stayed here, she would need a protector to live with her. That man was my Oji-chan. He was over 20 years older than Oba-chan. He was 56 when my father was born. He died in his mid-1980s when I was 1 year old. In the 1930s, Oba-chan would visit her family in Japan, bringing with her pictures of her 4 children and home in California. She even had a picture of herself in a car with her family. Cars were rare sights in Japan in the 1930s. She wanted to show off what a good home she had made for herself. Well, life here was tough given the circumstances one endures as an immigrant. Oba-chan believed to the end of her life that she had had a good life. She had enough time towards the end to let her Mountain View Buddhist Temple Fujinkai friends know that they were part of her good life. The concept of how important a Buddhist home is became very clear to me at last year's World Buddhist Women's Convention in San Francisco. The theme of the convention was Live Nembutsu. I was able to greet the Gomonshu, the 25th generation descendant of Shinran and Eshinni at BCSF. When I asked Reverend Abiko, how does one host the Gomonshu? Reverend Abiko said, treat him as you would a guest in your home. At once the lights in my head came on and I knew what to do. I worked with Ayako to put up the Celebrating Buddhist Women display in the social hall. I picked up fresh flowers on the morning that the Gomonsho was to come, that Misae and Reverend Abiko turned into spectacular arrangements. Many BWA members served tea and cake to the nearly 100 guests that day. And greeted, and I'm grateful to our Japanese speaking members who welcomed and took care of busloads of visitors to BCSF prior to the start of the convention. It was a fun experience that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. That story is a story that I have shared with my children. The convention activities down at the Marriott were memorable as well. The Hopo Fukuoka Sister City dinner at Fogo de Cachao that the Bay District Buddhist Women's League hosted was interesting. This is a long-term connection that has been nurtured by our BWA for decades. Sadako and Yasuko went to Hopo Fukuoka about 6 years ago as Bay District Buddhist Women's League representatives. Yasuko has memories of when she hosted students from Hopo Fukuoka over 30 years ago. Many thanks to our members for their help in checking in all of our guests, and gratitude to Kevin and Keith for taking pictures. The convention had more moving parts than I could count. BCSF BWA members Elaine as president and Jean as treasurer of the Federation of Buddhist Women's Association, the host entity of the convention, did a spectacular job in organizing a truly memorable event. It was such a terrific event that I'm looking forward to the 2023 World Buddhist Women's Convention in Kyoto. Throughout all of the convention, we BWA members took care of each other. For me, that was the best part, to spend time with our members in sisterhood is truly unforgettable. At last year's BCSF, or BCA, home co-service at BCSF, something interesting happened to me. I had not attended a service like that before, with a specialized chanting of the Shoshin-ge by 10 ministers. The service was really long and the hondo was packed. Afterwards, while I was sitting waiting for the line to Oshoko to thin out, Reverend Hatanaka, Nishi Honganji's representative, bowed to me and said, "Thank you for making our work possible." Reverend Abiko said the same thing after I had Oshoko'd. I was kind of blown away by this and have pondered its meaning. Here's my take. In Buddhism, there's the person, Amida Buddha, there is the Dharma, the teaching, and there is the Sangha, the community. For Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, there is no community without women actively participating. BW has always and will be always will be one of the most active parts of our Sangha. Without us, there is no home. While we are not visibly at BCSF, deadly out-of-control pandemics have a way of causing one to modify the meeting place. We are meeting over Zoom on a regular basis. In fact, we only missed our scheduled April meeting. While our activities are socially distant, the feel of those activities remain the same for me. The place where I hold my BWA sisters is always the same, in my head and my heart, the place that is my Buddhist home. FBWA recently announced the establishment of an endowed chair for the study of women in Buddhism at the Institute of Buddhist Studies, dedicated to Eshinni and Kakushinni. Due to the success of WBWC, FBWA will be a lead donor of this endowed chair. This is the future that RBWA will be working to make happen over the coming year, as well as our usual activities. While many see the present as dark and scary, when I think of BWA, I see points of light, the stars of my Buddhist home, delightful, intelligent women who are a pleasure to work with. And all I can say is, let's keep going. Ganbatte. Please join me in Kansho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Umihata, and I would like to offer a personal reflection on this very special service, honoring and remembering Eshinni and Kakushinni, the First Ladies of Jodo Shinshu, Honganji-ha. And I wanted to actually honor and remember one of our recently deceased Jodo Shinshu Honganji-ha ladies. And her name is Hiroko Terakawa Okawachi, very dear Sangha member. And I wanted to write this, I had many memories of her, and so I want to share something that is kind of half poem, half prose, just kind of scraps of remembrances. Okay, so here goes. Hiroko was a very okay lady, a cool temple lady. The letters okay, twinkle twice in her name. I like to say her name, Hiroko Okawachi. I will always remember Hiroko in her neat purple suit and matching purple cane, smiling eyes and gentle voice. She was a courageous wisteria lady. Hiroko would often phone me because she was in my BWA Toban group She would call me when it was our turn and ask, "Are you going? Can I get a ride? What are you bringing?" And keep me on my toes. Thank you for being my friend. Hiroko. I like to pick up Hiroko at her house in the San Francisco Richmond district. I was always late, but she would never complain. I would ring her doorbell and she would be all ready to go. Hiroko would carefully walk down the staircase, enter my car, and hand me a treat of home-baked goods or cool stationery items. And she would say, "A little something for you." And I would say, "Oh, you didn't have to." And she would say something like, "Oh, it's not much. Hope you enjoy it." Hiroko was an okay lady. Purple suit, purple cane, a strong and gentle wisteria woman. A minister's daughter, she spent part of her childhood living in the BCSF and BCA buildings in the 1930s, witnessing the roots of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism in America. Her father, Reverend Terakawa, and the BCA bishop at the time, Masuyama, held Buddhist study sessions conducted in English. Hiroko remembers the students would bring her copies of Life magazine. Her family moved to the Yakima Buddhist temple before World War II. In 1942, with FDR's Executive Order 9066, her family, along with all persons of Japanese ancestry on the West Coast, were exiled by the U.S. government. Decades later, Hiroko wrote, quote, "During the years of confinement, we needed Buddhism to help us keep faith that our future would be brighter." End quote. Returning to San Francisco post-war, Hiroko became active again in the BCSF. Like so many of our Sangha members of all generations, Hiroko volunteered every year for our temple activities: chicken bento preparation, Ginza Bazaar sushi shifts, BWA bake sale and boutique shifts, and much more. She cheerfully helped as needed, and she gratefully accepted rides to and from the temple from many friends. Thank you for all those times riding in the car, asking with sincere curiosity about how I was doing. I always felt okay when I was with you. Hiroko, okay lady. Thank you for being my friend and sharing your Nembutsu spirit. I know I will always feel okay too whenever I think of you. Hiroko, an okay lady, purple suit, purple cane, a courageous and gentle wisteria woman. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
My name is Harumi Kishida, and I'll be giving the meditative reading this morning. This poem was sent to me by a very dear co-worker friend, Sharon. Sharon has since passed away, so I'd like to dedicate this reading to Sharon, as well as to all the BWA members of the Buddhist Church of San Francisco, past and present. The title of the poem is One Flaw in Women. Women have strengths that amaze men. They bear hardships and they carry burdens, but they hold happiness, love, and joy. They smile when they want to scream. They sing when they want to cry. They cry when they are happy and laugh when they are nervous. They fight for what they believe in. They stand up to injustice. They don't take no for an answer when they believe there is a better solution. They go without so their family can have. They go to the doctor with a frightened friend. They love unconditionally. They cry when their children excel and cheer when their friends get awards. They are happy when they hear about a birth or a wedding. Their hearts break when a friend dies. They grieve at the loss of a family member, yet they are strong when they think there is no strength left. They know that a hug and a kiss can heal a broken heart. Women come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. They'll drive, fly, walk, run, or email you to show how much they care about you. The heart of a woman is what makes the world keep turning. They bring joy, hope, and love. They have compassion and ideas. They give moral support to their family and friends. Women have vital things to say and everything to give. However, if there is one flaw in women, it is that they forget their worth. Please know just how amazing you are. Thank you. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Our closing Gatha for today's service will be Seiya on page 226. Before we begin, I'd like to, on behalf of BWA, I'd like to extend our gratitude to Reverend Adams, our supervising minister, our amazing minister's assistants for their weekly services, our dedicated BCSF executive board, and lastly, our Keith Kojimoto and Kevin Yoza for their tireless technical and spiritual support through these COVID days. Thank you very much.
今日の聖歌は九条武子様作詞、中山新平作曲の「聖夜」で226ページです。ありがとうございました。